And what was the result of that action?
Those are also among the cases that have been dismissed.
And Bank of America contributed to Donald Trump and his inauguration, didn't they?
Yes,
Was it $500,000?
I believe so.
And JP Morgan, another $1 million?
Yes.
And Capital One, the evidence from the CFPB indicated they may have cheated customers out of as much as $2 billion. Capital One contributed $1 million to Trump's inauguration.
Also true.
And what happened as a result to the CFPB case?
They got their case dismissed.
You know, we've heard about corruption in politics for years, and we're constantly being told that, you know, politicians are corrupt and they're doing this and that. I have never in my life seen so much in-your-face corruption as I've seen with the Trump administration. And what they're talking about here in this congressional hearing is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which the Trump administration wants to eliminate completely. Because there's nothing worse than protecting consumers from multi-billion-dollar corporations. Yeah. The subject of that hearing was the fact that many big banks, Bank of America was mentioned, Capital One was mentioned, had basically defrauded customers out of billions of dollars and were facing charges from the Department of Justice. They were under investigation. They were facing charges. It did not look good for them until they made a donation to Donald Trump. $500,000 from Bank of America, $1 million from Capital One. And their cases within the Department of Justice were just completely dropped. Now, when most people think about corruption, they tend to focus on people enriching themselves through illegal or nefarious means. When I think of corruption, I think of the people they harmed, and I think of the victims. You see, Capital One defrauded their customers out of $2 billion, and they got away with it by enriching Donald Trump, who is already a billionaire, with an additional $1 million. And the people, the average everyday working people, just got robbed. And that is because they depend on billion-dollar companies to provide them services, and they depend on billionaires to enforce the laws of this country. How do you think that is going to work for the common man and the common woman? Watching this hearing, just not that I needed to be reminded, but it was simply another reminder of how unbelievably corrupt our entire government is. And understand something, that the members in Congress are fully aware of all of the things that are happening. And they don't care because they're getting paid as well. They are getting paid as well. It is simply a fact at this point. You know, at one point it was opinion. At this point it's a fact. If you're in trouble and you have some money that you can give to Donald Trump, you're going to be fine. From the banks to the pardons, people donating $1 million for a pardon instead of having to pay restitution to their victims that they stole $15, $20 million from. They are literally getting off cheaper and re-victimizing the victims all over again. So the rich, the people who are already extremely wealthy, can further enrich themselves. That is what we're doing in this country. And there's going to come a point. There is going to come a point where the people are going to get tired of this. I for the life of me, I have no idea how we haven't reached that point all over. I don't know how we haven't reached that point. I don't know how we have self-professed Christians, pastors, propping up a man like Donald Trump who would literally take the food out of a starving child's mouth if it added $1 to his pocket, which is already stuffed with more money than he can ever spend. That is where this world, not this world, but this country specifically, that is where we are now. That is where we are now. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. And the people who have the most ability, who have the most resources and the most money, can easily take the crumbs that are left from the poor. This is the country we live in. And people praise and worship these billionaires that do this to people. They think they're wonderful people. Do you think for a second that Donald Trump, even one single time, gave a single second of a thought about the victims of any of the crimes that the people he pardoned committed? Do you think it occurred to him for even half a second that some nurse in Florida who got scammed out of $50,000, who cannot afford that, is now not going to get any restitution because he put an amount of money in his pocket that probably wouldn't even pay for half of his day? This is what we're dealing with. These are the people we're dealing with. And as a country, we keep lifting them up. It is the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. And this is the fall of America. You know, I don't talk much about religion because I just don't think it's that appropriate. But, you know, greed is one of the 7 deadly sins. And I don't think it's any coincidence that during a time where greed is completely controlling every single thing that happens in our country today, I don't think it's any coincidence that we're seeing the country fall apart. And look, greed isn't necessarily a religious term. Greed existed before religion did. Religion is just where I learned about greed. So this isn't a God thing. This is a greed thing. Greed is destroying this nation. And it's causing irreparable harm to the people who are the backbone of this country. And until we can put a stop to that, until we can do something about the greed problem in America, we will never heal and we will never get any better. Please like, subscribe, and share. Leave comments in the comments section. Thanks.